Here is a common relationship scenario that explains why relationships start off feeling fantastic, wonderful, glorious, but then they have the potential to slide into a doom loop of mutually assured destruction. When you're with somebody and you've just met this person and you're starting to get the suspicion that this person is going to be an experience of emotional and sexual intimacy, that gives you some very ancient, very powerful, instinctive pleasure. And this kicks off the halo effect. Now, the halo effect is typically associated with gorgeous people. And when we see the gorgeous person, everything associated with that gorgeous person gets kind of a boost because of their gorgeousness. But this is just one specific example. Another example is they had these guys go out in public and talk to girls. And they had the same routine. They would talk to the girls and they would ask for their phone number. But they did this during two different scenarios, two different variables. Everything else was held fixed. And the first scenario, they did this on sunny days. The second scenario, they did this on cloudy days. Same guys, same routine. They said the same thing to a bunch of random girls. But on sunny days, they got a 25% success rate. On cloudy days, they only got a 13% success rate. And so simply by being on a sunny day, this boosts everything around you that's happening. If it's a cloudy day, this kind of suppresses everything around you that's happening. So when you see somebody, when you're starting in those wonderful early phases of a relationship that you hope will lead to emotional and sexual intimacy under a committed relationship where you have consistent access to this wonderful emotional and sexual intimacy, that makes you feel fantastic. Whenever you're with this person, you feel wonderful. You feel amazing. So everything you're doing when you're with this person will be boosted by the wonderful feelings this person is giving you. For example, this is an oversimplified example. Let's say you absolutely love Mexican food. When you're eating Mexican food, even when you're by yourself, you have 100% happiness level. But Chinese food, on the other hand, only gives you a 50% happiness level. It's like right there in the middle. Maybe a little bit better, maybe a little bit less, depending on the situation. But the average happiness level you get from Chinese food is 50%. But let's say your new relationship partner says, hey, let's get some Chinese food. Just them saying, hey, let's do this. You say, yes, let's do that. And so when you're eating Chinese food with your new relationship partner, it will be boosted by the wonderful feelings you get when you're with your relationship partner. And let's say they're the opposite. Let's say they have a 50% happiness level with Mexican food, but 100% happiness level with Chinese food. They will have the same experience. You say, hey, let's get some Mexican food. They'll say, yeah, okay, that sounds great. And you can misinterpret this without understanding the halo effect to think that they like Mexican food just as much as you do. Or they can interpret your response by thinking that you love Chinese food just as much as they do. And so what tends to happen with all relationships is diminishing returns kick in. The economic law of diminishing returns. The more you hang out with this person, the more you experience this person, the more you feel those wonderful feelings when you're with this person, those feelings become less and less powerful. They become common. They become ordinary. You start to expect the same experiences when you're having sex with them, when you're being emotionally intimate with them. And what happens is the halo effect starts to diminish. And this is when the relationship can slide into a doom loop of mutually assured destruction. Because let's say you never really articulate that you love Mexican food, but Chinese food is kind of mid. And let's say they never articulate that they love Chinese food, but Mexican food is kind of mid. This can lead to scenarios where you both expect the other person to behave a certain way, but those expectations are based on assumptions that are no longer true. And this can potentially lead to problems. For example, they say, let's go get Chinese food. And you think, Chinese food, I don't really like Chinese food. And instead of saying, let's do that because I like it, you go along with it because you're afraid of what might happen if you don't. And they might do the same thing without really articulating what they feel, how they feel, why they feel that way. And this is when relationships can get into trouble, because now both parties are doing the same thing they did before, but now they see it as work to maintain the relationship, and they might start to base their assumptions or base their expectations on the model that the relationship is starting to take more work than it's worth. Whereas at the beginning, you had this wonderful feeling where you didn't need to put in a lot of effort, but you got a lot of results back. And now you feel like you're putting in a lot more effort going to eat Chinese food when you really don't want to, but you're not getting a lot of rewards out. And this is when relationships can fall apart, when both parties believe that they're putting in effort, but they're not getting stuff out of it, and they fall apart and they break up. The key to keep from sliding into doom loop is your communication skills. If you were to articulate early in the relationship that you love Mexican food, but you really don't like Chinese food, in a way that they can understand that and understand what you're saying, then you can start to negotiate. Then you both know what's inside each other's heads. Then you won't make these assumptions. And then something else will happen. Just being with someone with whom you're having these consistent negotiations where you're both putting an effort to make sure each other's needs are met, that is a really, really good feeling. That is a feeling that is sustainable. That is a feeling that you can work on. That is a feeling that is much, much more sustainable than those early magical feelings. And this is the kind of relationships that last. These are the kind of relationships that become healthier and more mutually supportive over time. But the linchpin is your communication skills. The linchpin is your ability to articulate what you feel, to articulate what you want, to articulate what you don't want, and to help them articulate what they want, to help them articulate what they don't want, to help them articulate how you can both get your needs met in a kind of cooperative, collaborative way. Because if you're in a relationship with someone, and you have enough compatibility, basic compatibility, and you're both working on maintaining the health of the relationship, that is a wonderful feeling. That will get stronger and stronger as time goes on. Whereas the emotional, romantic feelings and sexual feelings, those will never last. And if those are the only things you're basing your relationship on, and you don't ever really communicate your mental map, and you don't ever help them communicate their mental map, you will fall into that doom loop of mutually assured destruction, and you will find yourself in serial monogamy, which a lot of people find themselves in these days. The key is to develop your communication skills. That will change everything. Being able to communicate your mental maps will change everything. People that continuously work on their communication skills tend to have much healthier relationships. People that tend to help other people communicate what's inside their mental map tend to have much healthier relationships. The more you continuously work on your communication skills, the healthier of a relationship you can create with more and more people, with a wider diversity of people. The thing about communication skills is it is a skill that's not really taught in school, and it's not something that people think of as a skill. But the more you practice the skill of communication, the better you can communicate. The more you can practice articulating what's inside your mental map, the better you can communicate what's inside your brain so other people can understand who you really are. The better you can help other people articulate what's inside their mental maps, the more you can understand who they really are. And here's the key. Here's the secret that not a lot of people will ever discover. Simply by helping other people expand what's inside their head, simply by helping other people articulate what's inside their head, will give them a very, very pleasant feeling. Because everybody walks through life with all of this massive information inside of our heads, a massive story about who we are, a massive story about what we want out of life, but no one really ever asks us, so we feel this stuff is kind of trapped inside of us. But if you can do the work, if you can expand what's inside someone else's mental map, that will make you seem much, much more attractive in their eyes. So just being able to communicate what's inside your mental map, and just being able to help them communicate what's inside their mental map will go a long ways in creating very, very long-term, very mutually beneficial, very healthy relationships. If you'd like to learn how, check out the links below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.